Hello, garden lovers, or at least Marvin Gardens fans. Um, it is late August, and this is Marvin Gardens video August 2024. It's pretty much a perfect August late afternoon out here, early evening, maybe you could even call it. It's in the upper 80s. It's a little bit humid, just like August is supposed to feel. And we've got a garden video to shoot. So let's get going without any further ado. And you can maybe see. Oh, no, he's hidden behind a chair. Frankie was right over there. There he goes. See him? He is exploring, and Ranger is too. And we're going to start this garden video off by carefully walking around the umbrella and taking a look at the Asian leeks, or garlic chives, in full bloom. They haven't started seeding yet, but they are in pretty good shape. And the irises not looking so great, as is typical for this time of year. Cocoa, however, is looking just fine, as are his friends down there. And in the greenhouse, it's a little bit different because we have taken all the tops off the remaining onions so that they can dry thoroughly as possible. And again, it's this year is kind of a meager harvest, maybe a little bit better than last year, but I think we got a fair amount of what we'll discover are mushy onions in there, which means we either use them right away or we don't use them at all. You coming out, boy? Atta boy. Nothing really too exciting going on in there. All right, so, oh, there's Mr. Ranger. Although it's hard to see in the shadows. Oh, and he just went around the corner. Petunias in the hangers are doing pretty well, although I had to recover those on the end because they had lost their watering for a day or two. But it looks like they've recovered okay. And this certainly looks different in old bed number 1, looking like fall. But we got I think about or over 100 years that we harvested for the local food pantry, so that was kind of fun. And these Silver Queen stalks are much more formidable, so they actually look like fall decor corn stalks, so that's not too bad. Now, over in the herb garden, which I haven't been paying much attention to, again, we got some flowering and some budding Asian leeks, and we got Asian basil, cinnamon, which is doing pretty well. Down there is Greek oregano, and haven't really pulled much of it yet, but it's doing okay. The sage, in the meantime, is looking a little droopy, which typically is prone to happen with sage, but there's a couple of plants back there that still look fresh and nice. And then we've got a pretty good stand of rosemary. And, speaking of which, I can't find any Well, there's a little bit right next to Frankie there. There's a little bit of parsley still coming in. There's also some clover, which we could do without. But this is German winter time. It's doing pretty well. And creeping time, which is a little overgrown with weeds, but not too bad. And over in the Pet Memorial area, the little black-eyed Susan type guys are pretty much on their way out, but all the dachshunds are looking comfortable and happy. Still being overrun somewhat by pond irises, but that's the way it goes. Now, if you tuned in last August, here's a big difference between last August and this August. Last August we couldn't grow nothing in here, and this August that is all pumpkin vine. There's at least 6 or 8 pumpkins underneath there somewhere, and you might notice that there's not really much in the way of browning leaves or powdery mildew or anything like that. Which tends to show up this time of year. They pretty much are looking good, so I think growing them inside the grow house was good, and it proves that the grow house isn't anti-pumpkin. I think I just got some lousy pumpkin seeds. All right, so right there in front is scallions that have been left in the ground too long. They will be harvestable as fresh onions. We've pulled quite a few leeks. That's what's next there. It's easy to tell the difference because the leeks have flat leaves, and the onion-related stuff has sort of round leaves. And these are volunteer ground cherries, and I'm sure Frankie has been helping himself. But for example, there's one right there that is absolutely ready for consumption, which I will consume right now, impolitely. And it's yummy. There's another big ground cherry plant right there, and these are volunteers. And for those of you who don't know what volunteers are, that means I didn't plant them. They just came up from previous plantings, or from the seeds left over by previous plantings. Speaking of volunteers, that's a volunteer calendula, and these are volunteer borage, which are these delightful little blue flowers, which are edible and go nicely in salads. Now, all the rest of this is where onions used to be. Managed to get a pretty good covering of hay mulch down there so that it's not overrun by weeds, which is what it was last year. And on to bed number 3. Unfortunately, our carrots, which used to be there, are a total bust. They just, I don't know if they got too much water or what, but they just kind of rotted. And so the baby carrot thinnings was all that we got out of them. This is another volunteer, and it's kind of a magnificent volunteer, because you can see how many sunflowers are on this guy. And it's really, I would say, probably at its peak as we speak. And it's over 6 feet tall and looking pretty fine. Meanwhile, down here in the brassicas department, let me gingerly step in here so I don't fall over. You've got Brussels sprouts here, and it looks like maybe we're going to get at least a modest crop of Brussels sprouts. And I also started treating them with the organic pest control Bacillus thuringiensis, or BT, almost every week, because I found that was necessary in order to keep the new leaves from getting chewed up. And as you can see, these are in pretty good shape. So we're going to keep our fingers crossed that we actually get a few Brussels sprouts. Next over here, well, in the same row, we also have some broccoli, but it's on its last legs. I even was too late in pulling the side shoots because they've already gone to bloom. But this row is a magnificent row of storage number 4 cabbage, and as you can see, none of them have split yet, and we could harvest them at any time. I don't think there's much danger of them splitting, but probably would be good to get them pulled. Now, interestingly enough, the caraflex, which are the sort of football-shaped cabbage, have all been harvested, but the equivalent of cabbage side shoots are coming up, and it looks like they might be harvestable and edible little cabbages if I can keep them from getting chewed up and they grow some more, because they're looking pretty healthy right now. All right, so now we're on to the red cabbage. Primero is the smaller ones in this row, although that one is a pretty good size. And then you got Ruby Perfection, again, none of which seem to be threatening to split. But there again, they probably could be harvested anytime, just to be safe. Now, we have one daikon alpine radish still growing here because of all the ones we pulled out. That one had not yet gone to flower, and so I thought I'd leave it in to see if it gets any bigger. We'll see. The other ones we pulled were okay, but they just weren't that big, I think, because I just had crowded them a little bit too much. And that brings us to corn, glorious corn. I can't even back up enough to get it all in. Maybe if I don't fall over. So there you have more than 10 feet high. And this is exactly why we planted staggered beds of corn, so that during late August we'd still have tall standing green corn with lots of ears left to harvest. And that one right there, for example, looks like it's ready. And we already pulled 18 out of here because I wanted to serve it to the poorhouse pickers when we had a rehearsal last week. But only 18 were ready. I think there's lots more that are ready now. And some of them, many of them, still don't show silks that are completely gone, like that one right there. Silk's still got quite a bit of yellow on it, which means they still have a ways to mature. But I think in the next couple of days I should be going in there and pulling everything that looks like the silks are totally brown, and they also look big and fat like that one. And If you squeeze the tops, they're filled out to the end of the cob. And those are the tests that you go through to determine whether your corn is ready to pick. And we've got a dozen in the freezer. I think I have a picture of them as they were about to go into the freezer, showing our method of preparing them for freezing, which is cutting off the ends, the extreme ends, and then a few of the outer leaves, taking them off, and then vacuum zip-locking them. And when you do that, they come out of the freezer as if they were fresh. Really, it's amazing. All right, so this bed now is cinnamon, Asian basil, which are those three plants along the front there. And then we got daikon radishes, alpine variety. And from last time, I told you that they got kind of devastated by slugs, but as it turns out, enough of them recovered so that it just sort of was a natural thinning. And I think letting these go, we're going to get nice big radishes out of them because they're not crowded at all. There's also a couple of oddball volunteer ground cherries that are in there as well. But most of those plants are daikon radishes, and you can probably see down there, except for my monitor keeps turning off, right down there, a pretty good sized guy, and I think we're going to get quite a few of those. Now, here's our flowers, not quite as peak as they were last time, but still coming in, straw flowers, 2 rows of those, and the calendula. And the calendula complement all the volunteer calendula that came up over there by the onion beds. This is a row of transplanted ground cherries, for the most part. And for some reason, these guys aren't doing as well as the volunteers that came up on their own on other spots of the garden, so who knows why. And this is our one big row cage of tomatoes. There's nothing really red right now. That one's sort of orange and getting close. It'll be ready in the next couple of days. But we've pulled lots of these guys and use them mostly for slicing onto sandwiches and slicing into some other cooked dishes. And they've been really great. And just doing one variety, we haven't done any tomato sauce because we have plenty of tomato sauce from years prior. You can see that these sunflowers are significantly past their prime, but we still have some blooms coming in, and like that one right there, except for, again, my monitor keeps turning off. I'd have to speak to Canon about that, because that should not happen just because you tilt the camera. All right, so that brings us to the back of the tomato cage. Now, right there is a female blossom that I missed because it looked like it probably just bloomed today, and I haven't been out here trying to pollinate blossoms in a few days. And that brings us to the marsh. You can see all the cattails that are up there, and you can't see all of them, and I haven't tried to count them yet, but there's a lot of them. That is a tomato that is on the ground. I have to remember to bring that in with me. Now, shall we go out to the asparagus patch? No, I don't think so. The We've got some summer squash planted out there. It's not really doing very well. We got a few. I think there's one crookneck squash that's still out there. Maybe I'll take a still of that and post it here. But everything is kind of winding down, so I don't think I'm going to bother to try and plant some more summer squash because I don't think there's enough time to get anything out of them. But I might, just for grins. Here's the fire pit area. We have done some fire pitting, I think a couple of times since the last video. One time was a cooking barbecue time, and one time was just snacks and cocktails, enjoying the fire pit. Either way, we've at least gotten out there to do that. I have not laid down in the hammock yet, but I think I will. I'll try to make a point of it. Now, the water features look fine. I don't see the pump running on this one, so it probably needs to be unclogged. This one looks to be the same. I don't see the pump dribbling, but like I mentioned last time, the unique thing about this one is that we actually have some teeny tiny lily pads right there, and so that's looking pretty good. Alright, so what's left besides Franklin, who's following me around? That cluster right there is mint that comes back year after year. And speaking of that, Nina's created a kind of a succulent garden over here with LED sunflowers. And nestled in there is also my peppermint mint, which again, I want to use one of these days for making some mint chocolate chip ice cream, which I tried once but didn't use quite enough mint to make the flavors happen. Our impatiens in various planters out here are looking pretty good. And the cornflowers have been stripped down because there's not much of them anymore. So they've been kind of cut off. As you can see, we've got lots of lily pads, and we've had, at least 6 or 8 water lily blooms. One of those was blooming today, and there's another bud or two behind it. So, and we've had a couple of duals, meaning two blooms at the same time. This new water lily has just managed to put up the pads, but we haven't seen a bud or a bloom out of them yet. So maybe that'll happen in the second year, because I think they will. It should overwinter quite well. And then our variegated garlic has been repeatedly blooming, and so that's kind of fun. Everything else is doing pretty well on in the waterfall area, although one fairy has kind of slipped backwards, but the others look like they're in pretty good shape. And really nothing to look at over here in the overflow tub, because we haven't got much overflowing except for some pond irises. So that brings us to, well, another nice pot impatience, I would say. Not too bad here. And then, of course, Fernina has beautified this area quite a bit with all kinds of stuff. And the pool is still up. It's getting heated because since this is coming close to being one of the last days it's warm enough to go in the pool, I'm planning to go in tonight after this video is complete. And you'll be happy to know that our one pair is still here. Not get much bigger, but it hasn't dropped off. So that's probably going to be our entire fruit tree harvest of this year, because as you might recall, the half-dead nectarine tree didn't do nothing, and the 1/4 dead peach tree didn't yield nothing either. So that's a little bit too bad. But like I said, I'm coming, Frankie. Like I said, I don't think that's the right spot for fruit trees. But if I can settle on a reliable stone fruit tree supplier, I might try planting them out here, kind of right behind me in the garden, where they would get more sun, rather than being shaded by that huge maple. I'm going to move this chair a little bit so that I'm not in the direct sun, and hopefully, as usual, I've found some drone footage to intercut in between all my terrible camera work. I can't remember the name of it. Hi, boy. Frankie, you want to come up, boy? Okay. This is going to be hard to do. Come here. Come here. Attaboy. All right. Whoops. Oh, that's funny. Oh, boy. Talk about bad camera work. Well, there we go. Oh, no, that's no good. No, that's no good either. We got to bring it down. Oh, Frankie. I was trying to get us both in, boy, but I'm not doing very good as a cameraman. And the, what the hell is that called? The auto leveling thing. Sometimes aging is a horribly tragic thing. When you can't think of the word you need to use. All right, so, hey, that's really going to do it. Frankie's taking a nice big drink. Oh, I got some, I did pick a couple of dog corn ears from the new bed, but I thought it looked like they might not mature completely. So I'm going to give those to these guys because they love it, one each, and I'll intercut some video of them doing the dog corn if I haven't already. Got a trail cam video coming up after this. It's a shorter one this year because due to my own error, about 2 weeks of video footage was deleted, and I couldn't figure out how to get it back. So it's a little shorter than usual, but mostly it's in pretty good shape. And I think I missed some daytime foxes. That's probably the main thing that I missed with my gap in coverage. But other than that, that's going to do it. The sun is getting low, even though it's only 6:11, because, we're actually headed towards fall. We've got lots of summer left, but meteorological fall is less than a week away, which is September 1st. And then there's still 3 weeks before astrological fall falls. So we still have lots of warm weather, and I'm personally really glad that we've got one corn bed that looks like fall and one corn bed that still looks like midsummer, and we have lots of harvesting to do yet. So it's always fun to sit out here and see stuff still growing and green, and that volunteer sunflower is no exception. It looks great. No signs of it starting to slow down. Anyway, as usual, I'm rambling, and so I'm going to say this is Marvin Gardens, August 2024. I don't think I've missed anything to talk about. So we'll see you next time in September, because that's the next month. Bye. And I hope you're having a great end of summer, and by the time we get to September, you'll be having a great beginning of fall. Later, guys.